She crushed my dreams when I was a powerless teen. 10 years later, I walked into her office and she stood up in shock. Asterisk asterisk I never thought the sound of my aunt's heels clicking down the marble hallway would haunt me for the rest of my life. But it does. They were the soundtrack of every command, every insult, every reminder that I wasn't there to be loved. Just used. My name is Amira. I was 14 when I lost both of my parents in a single brutal night. The car crash took them instantly gone, before I could say goodbye. Just like that, I went from being the bright, ambitious daughter of a close-knit family to a lost girl with nowhere to go. The state was going to send me to a group home, but my mother's older sister, Aunt Regina, stepped in like some sort of savior. I remember that moment so vividly, social workers praising her kindness, her crocodile tears, her soft touch on my shoulder. "She's family," she said. "Of course I'll raise her like my own." I believed her. I really stupidly believed her. But the minute we got to her sprawling estate in Westbridge Hills, I knew something wasn't right. Her mansion was immaculate white pillars, chandeliers, marble floors polished like mirrors. It smelled like money, like rules, like something I didn't belong to. Her daughter, Chloe, was already waiting in the grand foyer, holding a smoothie in one hand and scrolling her phone in the other. She barely looked up when we walked in. My room. It wasn't the guest room or a cozy spare bedroom. It was the maid's. Quarters in the basement, cold, cramped and smelling faintly of bleach. "Just for now," Aunt Regina said with a tight smile. "We'll get you settled." But I never moved upstairs. I never got settled. That first night, I was given a strict routine. Wake up at 5. Make breakfast for the house. Clean the guest bathrooms. Walk the dogs. Iron Chloe's school uniforms. "Everyone in this house has to contribute," Aunt Regina told me with a condescending tone, "especially since I'm taking care of you out of the kindness of my heart." I wanted to scream. This wasn't kindness. It was punishment disguised as charity. Chloe, my cousin, was everything I wasn't. Spoiled, entitled and shallow. She attended a fancy private school where she played tennis, danced ballet, and got chauffeured around like a princess. I, on the other hand, went to the local public school and was dropped off late because Regina made me finish the dishes first. The teachers liked me though. I had good grades even if I was always tired. And when it came to art class, especially architecture and sketching, I came alive. I used to build tiny models of buildings out of cereal boxes and leftover cardboard. My teacher, Mr. Davison, noticed. "Amira," he said one afternoon, holding up one of my blueprints, "have you ever thought about becoming an architect?" That was the first time someone saw me. Not as a burden, not as a helper, but as someone with potential. I began staying late at school to sketch in the art room. It was the only place I felt like I existed. I started dreaming of a future, of buildings I could design, of cities I could shape. I would trace lines on paper and pretend they were roads leading me out of this miserable life. One day, I entered a local design contest. I stayed up for 2 nights building a model of a sustainable tiny home with water recycling and solar panels. Something a kid like me could live in if life had been fair. I didn't tell Regina or Chloe. I kept it hidden under my bed in the basement. That's secrets. Don't stay secret long in that house. Chloe came down looking for a missing charger. She found my model instead. I begged her not to touch it, but she scoffed and brought it upstairs like it was some silly toy. Regina saw it and narrowed her eyes. "You've been wasting your time on this? It's for a contest," I said, mustering all my courage. "The winner gets a scholarship to a summer architecture camp." She smiled that wicked smile that never reached her eyes. "Scholarship, please. You don't need dreams, you need discipline. Then without blinking, she threw the entire model into the fireplace. Just like that, my dream went up in flames. I watched the cardboard curl, blacken, and dissolve into ash. Chloe laughed, and I died a little inside. That night, I cried into my pillow, thinking of my mother. She used to braid my hair and tell me I could be anything. Now I was a live-in maid, one who dared to dream. Too big. But I made myself a silent promise. They could burn my model, but they couldn't burn me. I didn't speak for days after Regina burned my model house. Not because I didn't want to, I just didn't have the words. I felt hollow, like someone had reached inside me and ripped out the last warm ember of hope I was protecting. But pain. Pain has a way of fermenting into fuel. While I scrubbed the marble floor on my knees the next morning, something shifted in me. Maybe it was defiance. Maybe it was survival. But in that quiet moment, with my fingers raw from bleach and my eyes still swollen, I whispered under my breath, I will build bigger things than they can ever imagine. Regina and Chloe could burn my model. They could burn 10. But they couldn't kill my fire. Every cardboard box that came into that house I secretly saved. Shoe boxes, Amazon packages, empty cereal cartons. I stored them in a bag under the basement sink and cut them at night by flashlight, taping and gluing until they became towers, bridges, libraries, homes. It wasn't about the contests anymore. It was about me reclaiming something no one else could take. My teachers kept noticing. Mr. Davison asked if I wanted to stay after school for an independent architecture study project. I told him I didn't think my aunt would approve. He frowned. I saw something change in his expression that day. A realization that maybe my home life wasn't what it seemed, but I nodded anyway. Yes, I told him. I'll do it. Those afternoons became my salvation. I studied Frank Lloyd Wright, Zaha Hadid, Norman Foster. I fell in love with curves and clean lines, with balance and geometry, with the power of space and how it made people feel. My hands stopped shaking when I drew. I found purpose in every angle. For the first time in years, I felt alive. But at home, nothing had changed. Regina only grew colder. Chloe became meaner. She once found my sketchbook and mocked me in front of her friends. Oh my God, look at this, she giggled. She actually thinks drawing little houses will make her important. Regina didn't stop her. She just sipped her wine and said, some people dream. Others achieve. Just make sure you don't embarrass yourself chasing the wrong thing, Amira. I didn't respond. I just clenched my jaw and thought, watch me. When college applications rolled around, I secretly applied to 2 schools, one local and one prestigious out-of-state program that focused on urban architectural design. It was a long shot, but I had the grades, I had the portfolio, and for once I had the courage. Then one miracle morning it happened. I got in. Both schools. Full scholarship to the out-of-state one. I screamed in the empty basement. I clutched the letter to my chest and cried into my blanket, whispering, Mama, I did it. I made it. It was the happiest I had been in years. And the last time I would feel that kind of joy for a long, long time. Because a week later, just days before I was supposed to leave, I came home from school to find Regina waiting at the kitchen counter, arms folded, lips tight, a manila envelope on the table in front of her. Did you really think you could hide this from me? She asked, tapping the letter. I froze. I was going to tell you. You were going to leave. After everything I've done for you. You were going to take your things and walk out of here like some ungrateful brat. I earned that scholarship, I said, the strength in my voice surprising even me. I'm going to college. Her eyes narrowed like knives. Not under my roof, you're not. She walked out, returned with a black trash bag, and threw it at my feet. Pack your things. You want to be grown. Be grown somewhere else. I stood there numb. You're kicking me out? You want freedom so badly. She sneered. You can have it, but don't come crying to me when the world spits you out. That night, with everything I owned stuffed into a trash bag, I walked down that marble hallway for the last time. Not me, not Chloe. Not Regina, one soul. I slept in the school art room that night, curled on a beanbag chair under a blanket of blueprints. I thought about going to the police, to a social worker. But I was 17, technically almost an adult, and I didn't want to go back into the system. I was so close. So I made another vow. If I couldn't live in their house, I would build my own future from scratch. I just had to survive first. That first night away from Regina's house was the longest of my life. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every creak of the school hallway sounded like someone coming to throw me out. I kept my phone on silent, clutched to my chest, waiting for a call from someone who cared. It never came. No friends, no family, no teachers. Just the darkness and the echo of Regina's words in my head. The world will spit you out. She meant it. She meant to spit me out before the world ever had a chance. But I wasn't going down that easy. The next morning, I snuck out of the school before the janitor came. I washed up in the public restroom across the street, using wet paper towels to wipe my face. My hands were shaking from hunger, but I walked to school anyway. My shoulders squared. I sat through classes like nothing had happened, but something had. And by lunchtime, I knew just how far Regina was willing to go. I went to check the email account tied to my scholarship, just to finalize travel plans and housing. But something was off. The password didn't work. I tried again. And again. Locked. I checked the scholarship site and froze. My acceptance had been rescinded. Applicant withdrew application due to personal family concerns. I didn't write that. I felt like the ground opened up beneath me. I ran to the school counselor's office. She looked up from her desk with confusion when I stormed in, out of breath and panicked. Miss Holtz, I said, someone cancelled my scholarship. I didn't do it. Someone hacked my email. I swear. She tried to calm me down, gently, but I could see the doubt on her face. Amira, you listed your aunt as your legal guardian. It says here she submitted a letter on your behalf. I blinked. What? She told the admissions office that you had a medical emergency and wouldn't be able to attend. She even signed forms on your behalf. That monster, that witch, she didn't just kick me out. She made sure I had nowhere to go. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I walked out of that office on numb legs, stepped into the hallway, and sank to the floor. I cried right there in front of the lockers, right in front of a group of kids who didn't even know my name. It wasn't fair. I did everything right. I studied. I worked. I sacrificed. And she still took it all. When the final bell rang, I didn't go home. There was no home. I walked to the local shelter, the one I had passed 100 times before and never thought I'd need. It smelled like sweat and cleaning fluid, and the woman behind the desk didn't ask questions when I told her I had nowhere else to go. They gave me a cot and a locker, and that was the beginning of my real life. The next few months were a blur of survival. I got a job at a local diner bussing tables. The manager was gruff but fair. He didn't care about my past, just that I showed up on time and worked hard. I made enough to buy ramen, notebooks, and a pair of second-hand sneakers. I started sketching again late at night on paper placemats, during breaks in the alley behind the diner. One evening, an older man in a dark peacoat came in and ordered, black coffee and a slice of lemon pie. He sat alone, reading blueprints. I recognized them instantly. I couldn't help but look. His lines were flawless, confident, technical, fluid. I must have stared too long, because he looked up and raised an eyebrow. "You like architecture?" he asked. I nodded, embarrassed. "I love it." He tilted his head, studying me. "You don't talk like a waitress." I nearly choked. "Sorry, sir." "Don't be." He slid the blueprint across the table. "Tell me what's wrong with this draft." I blinked. "Are you serious?" "As a heart attack." I scanned it. My eyes traced the frame design. The balcony was too shallow for proper drainage. I pointed it out. He smirked. "You got a name?" "Amira." "I'm Elias Maddox." My jaw dropped. I'd read about him. A top architect in the city. He'd built luxury towers downtown, eco-friendly schools, public libraries. He was a legend. "Well, Amira," he said, "how'd you like a real shot?" That night changed everything. He offered me a paid internship. Said he liked hiring people with grit. I cried in the walk-in freezer after my shift. Then I showed. Up at his firm the next day in my second-hand blazer with my sketchbook in hand and my heart pounding. I was in. For the first time since I lost everything I was climbing. I took night classes. Saved every penny. Lived off peanut butter sandwiches. And pure adrenaline. I didn't talk about my past. I didn't mention Regina. Or Chloe. Or the scholarship I lost. I just worked. Harder than anyone else. And slowly, something amazing began to happen. People started recognizing me. Not for my name, or my family, or my background. But for my designs. My ideas. My vision. And it was only the beginning. Asterisk. I used to think success started with opportunity. But I learned the truth. Success starts with hunger. Not the kind that makes your stomach growl, but the kind that claws at your soul and whispers, "You have nothing left to lose." After Elias Maddox took me under his wing, I became obsessed with earning every second of that second chance. Every coffee I fetched, every draft I corrected, every concept board I carried up 3 flights of stairs, I did it like my life depended on it. Because it did. I was still living at the shelter back then. Still saving every dollar from my internship. Still avoiding Regina's side of town like it was cursed. But inside Elias's firm, inside that sleek, modern studio buzzing with creativity, I felt alive. I was the youngest, the poorest, the quietest. But I was watching, listening, learning. And at night, I didn't sleep. I studied. I downloaded architecture textbooks from the library Wi-Fi. I taught myself AutoCAD and Revit using trial versions. I created digital mock-ups until my fingers ached and my eyes blurred. Then, I'd walk into Elias's office and pitch them like they were real. At first, he humored me. Then he started using them. I remember the first time he walked me into a team meeting and said, "This concept was Amira's. She caught a design flaw none of us did." People blinked, glanced sideways. "Who's the intern?" "Just a waitress girl, right?" But Elias smiled. "She's not an intern anymore." Within a year, I was promoted to junior designer. I finally moved out of the shelter and into a tiny studio above a laundromat. It was barely 300 square feet. Number. Stove. The radiator clicked all night. But it was mine. I taped my first paycheck to the fridge. I didn't even cash it until the next one came in, just stared at it, like it was proof. I wasn't a statistic. It was also the first time I dared to dream again. Not just surviving. Building. I began taking classes again, part-time this time. Paying for them slowly, one semester at a time. My professors were amazed at my portfolio. My design concepts were rooted in lived experience, tight spaces, efficient layouts, designs for families who had nothing and deserved dignity anyway. I poured my soul into those designs. And it showed. Community organizers started noticing. Got invited to a local Design for Humanity competition, a showcase for young designers, under 25. Most of the others had sleek PowerPoints, fancy backing, expensive mock-ups. I showed up with a cardboard model. Full circle. A sustainable low-income housing complex, solar panels, rooftop gardens, communal kitchens, rainwater harvesting systems, and a single word on the base: dignity. They gave me a standing ovation. I won not just the award but a grant and a feature in a local architecture magazine. The article headline still gives me chills. From shelter to structure, the grit behind the brilliance. And that's when the phone calls started coming. From bigger firms, from non-profit housing groups, even from city council members. But the one that stopped me cold was from a name I hadn't heard in years. Chloe. I stared at my screen like it was a ghost. The last time she saw me, I had a trash bag full of clothes and tears running down my face. Now I had a title: lead designer. I didn't answer. I let it ring out, but it left a stain on my day, and a question burning in my gut. Why now? I soon found out. Elias called me into his office 2 days later. I'm buying out a boutique firm that's struggling, he said. They're hemorrhaging clients, but they've got some valuable assets. Talent, location. He paused. It's also where you used to live. I blinked. Westbridge Hills. He nodded slowly. The firm's run by Regina Caldwell. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. She started her own architecture firm a few years ago, Elias continued. Used her late husband's estate and some shady networking to climb fast. But turns out, it's not enough to own the space. You have to know it. I stared at him. You want to buy her firm? He leaned back. No, we're buying it. You and me. You're going to be the new lead on the integration. And if things go well, I'll step back and hand the reins to you. Lead of the firm run by the woman who treated me like a cockroach. It was poetic and terrifying. And, oh, so right. I didn't sleep for 3 nights. My brain spun in loops. Would she recognize me? Would Chloe? Would they pretend nothing happened? Would they grovel? I didn't know what I wanted. Revenge? Justice? Closure? Maybe all of it. What I did know was this: they had stolen my dream job. Now I was coming to own it. The building hadn't changed, not 10 years, and that pristine glass office in Westbridge Hills still stood like a smug monument to everything I wasn't supposed to become. The morning I arrived, I wore my best, a tailored black blazer, heels that clicked like thunder across the marble floor, and my hair pulled back in a sleek knot. I didn't do it for vanity. I did it for armor. I wasn't the basement maid anymore. I was the new face of their salvation. The receptionist looked up when I entered. I could see her reading the name tag clipped to my lapel. Amira Saeed, executive lead, Maddox and Partners. Good morning, I said calmly. I'm here for the acquisition meeting. She blinked, then stood. Right, of course. Mrs. Caldwell and her team are expecting you. Mrs. Caldwell. Hearing Regina's name spoken with respect still made my jaw clench. But I smiled, nodded, followed her through those gleaming hallways. I was halfway to the conference room when I heard that voice. Did you print the updated drafts, Chloe? The Maddox team will be here any minute, and if they smell desperation, we're done. I turned the corner, and there she was, Regina standing by the glass wall in a perfectly tailored cream suit, clipboard in hand, barking orders at Chloe, who now wore designer glasses and held a steaming cappuccino like it was her birthright. And then it happened. Regina turned. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment, she didn't recognize me. She gave a tight corporate smile, automatic, dismissive. Then, her eyes narrowed. Recognition flickered. First confusion, then disbelief. Then, fear. I had dreamt of that exact expression. "Amira," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Is that really you?" "Hello, Aunt Regina," I replied, smooth as silk. "Long time no see." Chloe turned next. The cappuccino trembled in her hand. "Wait, you're Amira?" I gave her a nod. "In the flesh." I let the silence sit there, thick and satisfying. Then I added, "Let's go inside. We have a lot to discuss." The acquisition meeting was brutal for them. Elias let me lead. He sat back like a proud mentor, letting me explain how the merger would work, how Maddox and Partners would absorb the Caldwell firm, rebrand it, and restructure the leadership. I spoke clearly, firmly, without blinking. Regina kept adjusting her posture, like she could sit her way into control, but she didn't interrupt me, not once. She was too busy choking on reality. I outlined everything. Budget reallocations, team reviews, office restructuring, and most importantly, performance audits. That's when Regina finally spoke. "I assume I'll remain on as director," she said. I tilted my head slightly. "Actually, no." She blinked. "Excuse me?" "We've reviewed the last 2 years of your portfolio," I said. "And while your branding is strong, the actual designs have been inconsistent." I turned to Chloe. "Especially this one," I added, sliding a printed portfolio across the table. Chloe's name was on it, but the design was mine. I had sketched that layout in the back of a diner 5 years ago. She must have found it online or through a client who had seen my early freelance work. I opened the printout to the page with the original signature. My signature, faint, nearly erased but still visible. Regina went pale. You designed this?" "Chloe Chammered." I nodded. 5 years ago. I have the time-stamped email and the draft file. I didn't even have to say the word plagiarism, but I let it hang in the air like thunder before a storm. Elias finally leaned forward. "This isn't just an acquisition. It's a rescue. And we don't reward theft or incompetence." Regina's lips parted, but no sound came. Chloe folded her arms tightly. "This is revenge," I smiled. "No, Chloe. This is justice. And it's long overdue." After the meeting, I walked the building. Every hallway was haunted with memories. The break room, where Regina once scolded me for being lazy. The restroom I once scrubbed on my hands and knees while Chloe chatted with friends on speakerphone. Now, people greeted me with respect. Now, I held the key card to the executive floor. I stood at the corner window, watching the sun stretch across the city. And I whispered to myself, "This is what rebuilding looks like." But I wasn't done yet. The fall of Regina Caldwell had only just begun. Asterisk, asterisk, my name used to mean nothing. In Regina's house, it was just a sound barked across marble floors, followed by an order: "Amira, do the laundry. Amira, scrub the guest tub. Amira, don't embarrass me." But now it was a brand. 3 months after the acquisition, my face was featured in a major architectural magazine. The headline read, "From basement to boardroom. Amira Saeed redefined sustainable living. The interview had gone viral overnight. What made it hit so hard wasn't just the designs. It was the story. I told them everything except names. I didn't need to shame Regina or Chloe by name. Their faces weren't necessary for the truth to sting. I was taken in by a family member who promised me a future, I'd said. Instead, I was given chores and silence. They thought they'd buried me, but I grew in the dark. My words resonated. People reposted it. Young girls from shelters sent me emails. Mothers thanked me for showing their daughters what was possible. I cried reading them. Then I cried again when a top international design conference invited me as a keynote speaker. The girl who once begged for electricity and a place to sleep was now being asked to teach people how to build. Meanwhile, Regina's world was crumbling. When word got out that Chloe had plagiarized one of my early designs, public opinion turned fast. Industry insiders whispered about ethical failures, and clients quietly began to pull their contracts from Caldwell's former clients. Now my clients. Chloe resigned publicly, claiming it was for mental health reasons, but everyone knew. Regina stayed quiet. I expected a fight from her, but she didn't put up one. Not because she respected me, but because she feared me. One Friday afternoon, I walked past her office, the one she used to sit in like a queen, and found her packing up a box. She didn't look up when she heard my heels, just kept folding photo frames and tucking them away. Finally, she said, "Is this what you wanted?" I stood in the doorway. "I wanted peace," she scoffed. "You got power." "No," I corrected. "I earned power. What I wanted was to stop being invisible." She paused. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said. I tilted my head. "You didn't mean to burn my scholarship. You didn't mean to lie to the university. Or kick me out with nothing." She looked away. "I was scared of you," she whispered. "That stunned me." She continued. "You were smart, driven, resilient. Everything I wasn't at your age. Everything Chloe never had to be. And for the first time in my life, I saw her, not as a villain, but as a small, insecure woman clinging to power she never truly earned." "I didn't need a mother," I said. "I just needed a safe place to grow." "I couldn't give you that," she admitted. "No," I said gently. "You wouldn't." She nodded. And I walked away. That was the last time I ever saw her in that building. The office was different now. I restructured the firm to include more community projects, housing for low-income families, sustainable schools, urban playgrounds. My goal was simple: make architecture accessible, make dignity universal. I hired designers from underrepresented backgrounds, people with stories like mine. We called ourselves Blueprint Reclaimed. The name meant everything to me. A blueprint is a plan, a dream, a possibility. And I had taken mine back. Awards followed. The mayor invited me to speak at a city renewal panel. My TED Talk titled, "Raised Like a Maid, Rebuilt Like a Queen," crossed 2 million views in under a week. Even my old teacher, Mr. Davison, reached out. "I always knew you'd build something incredible," he said, "but I didn't know it'd be a movement." It was surreal. And yet, I remained grounded, because I never forgot where I came from. The basement, cardboard boxes, the shelter floor. And the promise I made to myself the night Regina threw me out. They can't burn me. 6 months after, I restructured the firm and rebranded it as Blueprint Reclaimed. Our expansion took off. We were getting more proposals than we could handle, from both government contracts and private clients, who wanted to align their brand with something authentic, something powerful. Something real. We had grown from a firm of 20 into a creative house of over 75, with a waitlist of applicants longer than some architecture school acceptance lines. And that's when my HR director, Malika, walked into my office looking puzzled. "We've got a resume that you might want to see," she said, holding a cream-colored folder. I raised an eyebrow and took it. At first it didn't register. But then I saw the name. Chloe Caldwell. And under the header, in bold black type, seeking junior project manager position. I almost laughed. But instead I leaned back and closed my eyes, letting the weight of the moment settle over me. The girl who once mocked my sketches, who stole my work, who watched as her mother kicked me out of her home like trash, was now applying to work for me. "What do you want to do?" Malika asked softly. I opened my eyes and smiled. "Call her in." She came in a week later, hair freshly dyed, makeup subdued, designer bag replaced by something cheaper. She looked smaller somehow. Humbled. She stepped into my office, saw my face and froze. "Hi, Chloe," I said, calm and measured. "Take a seat." She slowly sank into the leather chair across from me, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I didn't know this was your firm," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "You didn't check the name on the building? Or the hundreds of articles with my face on them?" She looked down. "I guess I was hoping." I waited. She cleared her throat. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything." I said nothing. "I wasn't a good person back then," she continued. "And honestly, I didn't even want to apply here. My mom told me to. She said, maybe you'd have pity." I let that hang in the air. "Do you want my pity?" I asked. She looked up. Her eyes glistened. "No, I want purpose." That surprised me. It sounded genuine. She continued, "I've spent the last 6 months applying to every firm in the state. No one wants me. The plagiarism scandal destroyed my reputation. I was stupid, entitled. I didn't understand how hard you'd worked. Until I had to start from scratch." It was quiet for a long moment. Then I leaned forward. "I have a question, Chloe. When your mother threw me out, and I was crying in the rain with nowhere to go, what did you do?" She flinched. "I laughed," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "So now that you're the one begging for a hand, you expect me to forget all that?" "No," she said quickly. "I expect you to remember it, and maybe believe I'm not that girl anymore." That was unexpected. I stared at her, at the woman who once symbolized everything that had ever gone wrong in my life. And I realized something. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't want revenge. I didn't need to humiliate her, because I'd already won. I slid a paper across the desk. "A contract. Apprentice level," I said. "No title. Minimum pay. No shortcuts. You'll shadow one of our junior project leads and do exactly as told." Her mouth fell open. "You'd actually hire me?" I nodded. "This isn't a gift. It's an opportunity, just like the one I never got." Tears welled in her eyes. She reached for the pen, but I held up a finger. "One condition." "Anything." I stared into her eyes. "You tell every new intern you meet exactly how you ended up here. Every flaw, every lie, every lesson, no sugarcoating." She nodded instantly. "I will." And she did. Chloe joined as our lowest level apprentice, and to her credit, she worked. She stayed late, took notes, asked questions. She never once asked for a favor. Never brought up our past again. But she didn't hide from it either. Sometimes I'd walk past the intern circle and hear her say, You have no idea how lucky you are. I once laughed at the woman running this company. She built everything I tried to take away. And that was enough for me. She would never be my friend, but she became a lesson, symbol, proof that growth is possible even for those who once tried to break you. As for Regina, she disappeared from the industry. Word was she sold her house and moved to a quiet coastal town. Last I heard, she started a blog about reinventing oneself after career failure. I didn't click. Didn't need to. My story didn't need her anymore. Because, for once in my life, I was surrounded by people who saw me, and I saw myself clearly. No longer just a Mir, the dash Maid. But Amira Saeed. Founder, leader, architect of my own future. Asterisk. It's funny how tables turn when you stop trying to flip them, and just build your own. Years ago, I'd have given anything to be seen, heard, valued. Now, I had people waiting months to sit across from me in a meeting. Blueprint Reclaimed was no longer just a rising name. It was the name in sustainable design. Cities were bidding for our concepts. Real estate developers were pivoting to match our aesthetic. Public officials invited me to speak at forums on affordable housing. The once homeless, scholarship-less, cast-aside girl had become the standard. But success isn't just about winning. It's about who you bring with you. That's what made what happened next so powerful. We were finalizing our firm's biggest public-private partnership yet, a project called the Renewal District. It was massive. 80 acres of abandoned warehouse space. We were transforming into eco-friendly apartments, co-working spaces, public parks, and low-cost housing. A project like that needed local collaboration, especially from Westbridge Hills, the same affluent community where I once scrubbed bathroom tiles on my hands and knees. The irony? They were now trying to hire me to design for them. The same school board that once ignored my academic success suddenly remembered my name. The same neighborhood association that never sent so much as a condolence card after my parents died was now offering an honorary design award. And at the center of all this sudden politeness, Mrs. Caldwell. Regina. Her name came up again at a planning meeting. I had nearly forgotten her, but apparently she'd re-emerged as the chair of the Westbridge Preservation Committee. The woman was like a weed chopped down, yet somehow sprouting again. I'll be honest, said our partnership liaison. We'll need her signature on the zoning approval. She's got influence in that district. I didn't flinch. Fine. I sighed. Let's set up a meeting. It was held in a neutral location, a public planning office downtown. Glass walls. Neutral paint. Nothing luxurious, just utilitarian. I wore a soft blue blazer and a quiet confidence. Regina arrived late. She looked older. Her signature blonde blowout had dulled. Her heels were lower. Her eyes were tired, but her voice still sharp. Amira, she said as if we were old acquaintances. I wasn't sure you'd come in person. I make a point to handle legacy projects myself, I replied smoothly. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I must say, she continued, you've come a long way. I looked her in the eye. Yes, I have. You tried to stop me. Didn't work. She inhaled slowly. I didn't come here to fight. Then why did you come? I'm trying to do something meaningful, she said. Help preserve the charm of Westbridge. Its heritage. Its identity. I leaned back. The same identity that kept kids like me from having a place to grow. Her expression faltered. I'm not here to punish you, Regina. But I'm also not here to pretend we didn't live the same story. She sighed. Then what do you want? I paused. And then I said something I hadn't planned. I want your signature. But I also want your support. I want your committee to endorse this project, because the people it helps aren't just numbers. They're kids like I was, with talent, with potential, waiting for someone to believe in them. She stared at me for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. I'll sign, she said, and I'll write the endorsement. I was stunned, but I didn't let it show. And one more thing, she added, almost quietly. I'm sorry. My chest tightened. It wasn't grand. It wasn't dramatic. But it was real. It came late. But it came. And maybe that was enough. The press conference for the renewal district was packed. Journalists, officials, architects, students, community members, they all came. I stood at the podium with blueprints behind me and a mic in front of me. My name is Amira Saeed, I began. I was raised in Westbridge Hills not as a child of privilege, but as a girl in the shadows. Forgotten, overlooked. But today, I stand here with a vision not of revenge but of renewal. I saw Chloe in the crowd, standing with the junior staffers. She gave me the smallest nod. Even Regina was there, arms folded, gaze steady. I continued. We don't need to tear things down to make room for new growth. But we do need to face the truth of what kept that growth from happening in the first place. I paused. Then smiled. This isn't just an architecture project, it's a statement that no one, no matter how small, how overlooked, how discarded, deserves to be locked in a basement while others rise. We all rise. Together. Afterward, I walked through the construction site. Steel beams rising, cranes moving like clockwork, and a single placard being installed at the main entrance. Designed by Amira Saeed. Built for every dreamer. I didn't cry, but I did smile. Wide. Because the table hadn't just turned. I had built the whole damn table myself. Standing on the rooftop terrace of the Renewal District's newest building, I let the warm sunlight wash over me. Below, families were moving into their new homes. Laughter echoing through freshly planted parks. Children chasing each other around playgrounds that had once been empty lots. I breathed in deeply. This was more than architecture. This was hope. The journey from a scared, abandoned girl to a woman leading a city's transformation was filled with scars. But those scars became my strength. I had once felt invisible, cast aside like an unwanted chore. Now, my name was a beacon. But the most important part, I wasn't alone anymore. Blueprint Reclaimed had become a family, a community of dreamers and doers. Malika, my HR director, had become my closest confidant. Elias Maddox, the mentor who had seen potential in me when I was nothing but a sketch on a napkin, still called me every week to remind me to take a breath. And Chloe, the once rival, was now my trusted project manager. Sometimes, I caught myself thinking how strange life could be. How people who once tried to break you might become part of your story in ways you never expected. But there was one chapter one had yet to close. Regina. She had apologized that day at the planning meeting. I accepted. But forgiveness wasn't about erasing the past. It was about reclaiming my future. I reached out to her a few months later, invited her to a community event where we unveiled a scholarship fund in my mother's name. She showed up. Not as the woman who tried to bury me, but as a guest, quiet, humble. Watching as young students received their awards, their eyes bright with promise. And I realized something important. Legacy isn't what you inherit. It's what you build. That night, I sat alone on the rooftop. The city lights flickered below, endless and alive. I thought about the little girl, who dreamed in cardboard boxes, who believed in a future no one else did. I smiled softly. Because dreams, when nurtured with grit and grace, don't just survive. They shine. And sometimes, the brightest light comes from the darkest places. It was a chilly autumn morning when I walked into the grand auditorium. My heart pounding with a mix of nerves and pride. Today was the day. The day I'd been dreaming of since I was a little girl, scrubbing floors and dreaming of blueprints. Today, I was to receive the Architect of the Year award. A recognition from the National Association of Architects. As I stepped onto the stage, the crowd's applause washed over me like a wave. I looked out into the sea of faces. Friends, family, colleagues, mentors, even Regina, seated quietly near the back, giving me a small, genuine smile. I took the microphone, my voice steady but filled with emotion. "Thank you," I began, "for this incredible honor. I stand here not just as an architect, but as proof that your past does not define your future. I was raised in hardship, in a house where love was scarce and dreams even scarcer. But I learned early on that resilience isn't just about surviving. It's about building hope, building opportunity, building a life worth living. This award is not just mine. It belongs to every child who was told they weren't enough. To every young person who's been overlooked or underestimated. To every mentor who believed when no one else did. Thank you to Elias Maddox, who gave me my first chance. Thank you to Malika, my rock and my guide. Thank you to Chloe, for teaching me forgiveness and growth. And even to Regina, for showing me the strength I needed to rise. I dedicate this award to those still building their dreams from the shadows. May you find your light, and may you build a future brighter than you ever imagined. As I stepped down, applause thundered. I felt the warmth of a journey completed, but also the spark of one just beginning. Because success isn't a destination. It's a path. And I was ready to keep walking it. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, no matter where you come from, your future is yours to build. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment "revenge" so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as please let us know, where are you watching from? What do you want to hear from us in next video? If you have any incident in your life, please let us know. We would love to share your story.